Hey, what's up guys? BriarRabbit here, and today I want to talk about the differences between the A50 and the A40 Astro headsets. So when I was looking for a new headset, I really couldn't find a lot of information on the web that really described the difference between these two headsets. The A40 is $250 and the A50 is $300. So $50 difference. While you're up there in that high price range, doesn't seem like a lot. It is. It's $50 in your pocket. That's almost enough for a whole nother new game. So let's talk about the differences. And the first thing I want to talk about is the design of the two headsets. So right off the bat, you'll see that the design of the headsets is pretty similar. They both look a lot alike. And the only thing that would really tell you if they were unplugged or if the A40 was unplugged is the ear cup design. And what you see with the ear cup design is actually removable faceplates on these ear cups. I like this feature. It lets you customize these ear plates. They're very easily removed and put back. They're just magnetic little latches there. And another thing that lets you do is you can actually remove the microphone from one side and install it on the other side. The A50 does not have that feature, and if it makes a difference to you, it's kind of a big feature. If it really bugs you to have it on one side and not the other, it's kind of cool. I like that. It doesn't really bug me either way though, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. Another thing that you'll see different is that the A50 has a matte black design to it. The Astro A40 has much shinier material here, and it picks up a lot of fingerprints. I personally prefer the matte. You might have a different preference. That's really, it's just, it's a preference that you might have. The A40 also comes in white or black, while the A50 only comes in black at this time. So let's talk a little bit more about the controls. The controls on the headphones are very different. So on the A50, your controls are all actually on the headphone itself. Your volume is over here. It's just this rocker switch. It's not a rocker, it's a roller. It's a rocker and a roller. It's got the levels here for different modes. So if you're watching movies or listening to music or playing games, it's got different levels you can use. And the power button's right up here. And then right here is pretty interesting. This is a rocker switch. You can move between more voice volume and more game volume. I like that. It's pretty nice. On the A40, none of that is on the headset itself. It's all on this Mixamp. So if you want to change your levels, you hit this button. If you want to increase and decrease the volume, you hit this very big volume knob. And if you want to adjust between more game and more voice, you use this smaller one. I got to tell you, this is a very nice piece. It's very heavy. It feels good in your hand. These volume knobs feel good. The Mixamp for the wireless is just really a plastic box. It doesn't have the same feel, but at the same time, you don't really interact with it at all because all of your controls are on the headset itself. Another thing that should be said about the design of the A50 is that the battery that's inside the headset actually adds a bit of weight to the headset, so it's a little bit heavier than the A40, and it's not user serviceable. So you cannot take this battery out and replace it. That creates two issues. One is you have to always remember to recharge it because you can't just swap in a new battery. Secondly, batteries wear out. Eventually it'll stop accepting a charge, and I don't know right off the top of my head if you can send these back to Astro and they'll replace it for free or if they're going to charge you. But, it will wear out eventually. That time that it'll take a charge for is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually it just won't work at all. This won't have the problem. The A40s are wired. They power off your Xbox or computer or PS3, so you're just not going to have that problem. One other obvious design thing is the use of the wire. So you have the Mixamp here. It has a wire that goes to the headset itself, and then the Mixamp itself has to be wired to your Xbox controller. That's if you're an Xbox gamer. If you're PS3, I believe it works through USB, and obviously PC works through USB as well. But if you are an Xbox gamer, this box has to be close enough to where you're sitting to run a cable to it, and that can be pretty far away from your TV, which creates an issue where you have to have actually two cables running from your entertainment system. One is the optical cable coming from the Xbox, and one is a USB to power the Mixamp and the headphones. that can be an issue. That's a lot of wires. It can really create a rat's nest. If you're using it for an Xbox, that's a minimum of 4 cables that have to be connected, and that's quite a big deal. With the A50, you have 1 wire that has to be connected to your Xbox 360 controller. If it's a PS3 or a PC, then just the 1 USB cable is enough, and this is completely wireless. That's much better, in my opinion. I really enjoy that. So let's move on to the sound quality. The sound quality on these two guys was pretty comparable. The difference between it, I think, really comes down to the open design on the A40 and the closed design on the A50. So as you can see here, the A40s have this open back. You get a lot of sound leakage out of this. But what it creates is much airier, high-end, what you might think of as treble. The high-end feels more accurate, but the bass is not as punchy as on the A50. The sealed design really traps that bass in and creates a pressure, like a bassy pressure that really hits you. Now, I'm not an audiophile, but for music, I really preferred the A40s. It sounded much better. It sounded much more accurate. For games and movies, I really preferred the A50s. The bass, the added bass, really added dramatic effect to games and movies, but it really drew back on the on music because the bass tended to kind of overwhelm the rest of the sound for music. So, you know, it is a gaming headset, so for games, I got to go with the A50. But for music, a lot of people use it for music. I got to go with the A40s. I would like to point out another thing about the Mixamps themselves. I'm going to unplug these Mixamps so the lights are going to turn off. But I wanted to show you how you can hook these things up. So on the A40, okay, this is the Mixamp Plus. There are a ton of different ways to hook this thing up. You have an optical cable. This will hook it to your Xbox, your PS3. PCs mainly will use the USB. You have an extra MP3 input. This is awesome. You can hook up an iPod, your iPhone, and have music mixed in with your game sound. So you can be listening to music and playing your video game at the same time. And then it has this streaming out. So this actually supplies your microphone to a PC. So to the input jack on a PC. I gotta tell you though, the sound quality of these microphones was not too hot. So I wouldn't use them for any kind of commentary over video. They're fine for Xbox Live or voice chat, but not so hot if you want to record it for video. And I'll actually, at the end of the video, I'll play you a couple of samples so you can hear the differences between the two mics. Both mics sound about the same. They're just not that hot. There was a difference with the A50 mic in that it does cut off about 1/4 of a second worth of your first sentence. That's probably because it needs to make some kind of handshake. So let's look at the inputs and outputs on the A50. What we have is a auxiliary, so that will mix in your music from an iPod or your iPhone or whatever you're using music from. It's got this power jack. The power is a USB, just like on the Mixamp Plus. It's nice because you can power this with the USB and also send data over the same line. It's got an optical in and an optical out pass-through, which is nice. And it's got an extra USB. For me, I prefer this USB port to the Mixamp Plus's stream out because USB is just a little more convenient for me hooking up to a computer and getting voice if I want to do a live commentary. But to be honest with you, the microphones aren't good enough that I would record a live commentary. I'm probably going to use a better microphone for that. So let's talk about the Mixamps themselves a little bit more. I got to tell you, this Mixamp is a plasticky box. This Mixamp feels cool. It's got this rubberized finish. The volume knobs are like really nice feeling. It just feels like a nice box. This Mixamp also has these pass-throughs, so you can actually hook up a number of these. If you're doing a LAN party and a bunch of your friends have these, they have this automatic pass-through feature where you guys can chat with each other, not necessarily right through the game. I got to talk about this game port too. When you hook up a Xbox controller to this, it is going to here, not to here, and that stinks. I don't like that at all. So let's talk about the pros and cons of both headsets. I'm going to talk about the A50 Pros first. The first major pro is that this is wireless. A wireless headset is just more convenient. It sounds great. I like the way it sounds. The bass is a little boomy for music, but for games and for movies, this is the way to go. It's got this extra USB port. I like that. This can be hooked up to the Xbox. This can be hooked up to my computer, and I can really customize the way as I want to use it. I like that a lot. The controls are all on the headset. I like that a lot too. As opposed to the A40 where the controls are somewhere near you, these controls are always in the same place. They're right on your head. I really enjoy that. Pros of the A40s. All right, so we got an awesome Mixamp. I really love this Mixamp. It feels solid. It's a nice piece. The volume controls feel great. It's got plenty of inputs, plenty of outputs. It can connect to more Mixamps for a LAN party. It's a really nice piece. I like that the A40s are a little bit lighter. That feels good on your head. I like these removable face plates, and I like that you can move the microphone to either side. Cons of the A50. Let's talk about the cons. So you still need a wire to connect to the Xbox controller. If you have a PS3 or a PC, it's not an issue, but Xbox, you still need that wire going from your head to the controller. Another con is it's not a user replaceable battery. That is a big bummer because eventually this battery is going to die, and you're going to either have to send these back to Astro or buy a new headset. And, you know, batteries only last so long. Cons of the A40. Holy rat's nest. This thing, it requires so many wires. And these wires, if you're using this in your living room, these wires are going to be everywhere. I'm using it in my office, and it's still creating a problem. There are just wires everywhere. My chair's rolling over them. It's crazy. The controls on the Mixamp are a con as well. Even though I really like this Mixamp, you have to have this thing sitting near you because you want to be able to control the game to voice volume as well as the regular volume. And that is a bit of an issue. You also need to have your Xbox controller plugged into this. So you have two wires going from you to the Mixamp and two wires going from the Mixamp to the Xbox for power and for sound. So that's a bit of an issue, to be honest with you. You're gonna have to find a really long optical cable. That's about it. So what I really want to do is I want to recommend one over the other, and to me it's the A50 hands down. I really like this Mixamp for the A40, but the Mixamp on the A50 does enough for me. I do like the lightness on the A40, but the heavier bass, the sealed design, the wireless, it all creates a package that just feels better for me. Even though these are $50 more than these, I feel like the wireless alone really takes care of that. And for $250, I gotta say, that feels a little overpriced for the A40s. $300 is not cheap, but the $50 difference, I definitely would go with the Astro A50s. If you are going to use these in a LAN environment or an environment, maybe you're going to play in tournaments, you have to go with the A40s. You need these to be wired. You cannot rely on a wireless signal in a noisy environment. That's going to do it, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. This is a test of the Astro A50 wireless microphone run through USB to Audacity on a Macintosh computer. This is a test of the Astro A40 wired microphone. This is a test of the Astro A40 wired microphone using the streaming output on the Mixamp Pro.